Hey everybody! Today I wanted to show you how to make embossed leather. This is something that we do on a lot of our scrap leather to make like bracelets or little accents or different things, and it's an excellent way to put in a bunch of detail without adding to the time and really skill set, as well as like the amount of tools that you need to really get some cool looking leather going on. So what you're going to need is from the scrapbooking section in like Hobby Lobby, Joann, or Michaels, or online. I got the cheapest, like least expensive. This was like 30 bucks before a 40% off coupon, because this is like the second or third one that I've gone through. Now, I mean, it's still working, but one of these days it's going to die and I'm going to have to get a new one because I am abusing this machine past it's recommended anything. Like, don't get any warranties or anything on your embossing machine. Don't use your expensive vintage embosser. Just get the cheapest. It's Texture Boutique. It looks like a little purse. It's kind of heavy. It's got this little cranky handle on the side, and it came with these two very thin plastic sheets, as well as these two thick plastic sheets. And you can see it still kind of has its directions on the back. And you can get these little, well, they started off as pokey uppy design, and the other side will give you an indented design. If anybody knows the actual technical term for pokey uppy, please let me know. I sound like an idiot. But it's like, it's where the design is raised from the rest of it, maybe. Sorry. And so if I laid it flat open, unless you want that effect, it's going to give me part that's imprinted and part that's raised. So I cut them in half and try to keep track of, because you can see right here on this piece is the line from where I had one panel placed and I fed it through, and then I had the other panel placed and fed it through. I'm going to show you on this one. It was really difficult to do because it's like a geometric gear design, but the one that I'm going to be showing you today is this very abstract, pretty spirally design. It is one of my favorites and easily one of the best selling out of our booth, because who doesn't love spirals? But yeah, and I got, this one's a Cuttlebug. It was a larger one, so I actually had to use my scissors and cut down the sides to be able to get it to fit my embosser. But I've gotten all sorts of brands. This one was Garis brand. Like, so not all of them are the right. This one was the Paper Studio. I get them, as long as it has a texture on it, you can cram it through there. So let's get started. So I'm working on a corset today, and I really like these for doing corsets because on the leather here, this had the brand in it, which normally would have really complicated things, but I made sure to have the brand nice and centered up, and it kind of makes a little bit of a swirly pattern overall. So that's why I decided to use this one with a swirl. I have dipped these through warm water, but I did not properly case them. I mean, you want them to be damp, but I used to case them fully and water would be leaking everywhere, and like I'd get these black watery spots on my leather. So don't case it as fully as you would as if you were tooling, because you don't want your machine to get soggy and stain your leather, and it gets water stuck in it and it gets gross. So I always use one of these as a base, unless it's like mega thick leather. And so I just lay it on, and I'm going to position my spirals however I'd like, making sure that I'm not exceeding the boundary. Consuming, but not as time consuming as doing it entirely by hand. Okay, so there is, look at that, y'all. This is so pretty. Isn't that pretty? And it works really well over that that scarring from where the hide was branded. But now, this is where I feel like that lady from The Sponge, like, whew, but geek points if you get what I'm talking about. you'll want to, right where that seam is, you're going to want to exceed it just a hair. In fact, I think I'm going to do it on the side that mirror images it just a bit. So you're going to exceed just a, like, I mean, maybe a centimeter. And then whenever you're laying it on your plate, if you did it like this, you'd have another line there. So if you bring it out to the edge and stagger that, for lack of a better term, stagger the hem, then it's going to give you, it's going to be gradiated in. And so I'm going to do this, I'm going to put this to the machine, and hopefully you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, over my time of using this method, I've tailored, so I kind of know, depending on the thickness of the leather, whether or not it's going to really choke up my machine. Okay, now it still gave me a little bit more of a line than I would have liked. So let's try again down here. I'm gonna line up our pattern, overlap it just a bit. So I think this one, I'm actually gonna overlap it about 1 inch this time. And then bring that to where, again, you can see how it's staggered just that little bit. And cram it through the machine. Try to keep everything relatively in place. Yeah. See this? Oh yeah. That's so good. I mean, and if you look very closely, there is some weird stuff going on there, but that looks better than that. You know, that line cutting through, you don't want that. And then we're gonna do it again. And this is, you can do this on any thickness of leather so long as you are able to fit it through your contraption. You know, our little paper embosser here. And it's, again, like if this were like soggy leather, I'd be having, I mean, water leaking out everywhere. It makes it difficult to grip if there's water everywhere. Now that one came out kind of light. So you can see it didn't emboss as deeply as I wanted. So what you can do, making sure you have your plate lined up like basically the same exact way as what you just did, reline up over what you had done as best as you can, and then take those thinner sheets and just lay it on top. You can lay sandpaper, a coarse grit sandpaper, cut out to size, lay it grit side down, and feed it through to get, oh, look at that, much better. It also has the effect of burnishing the background, so keep in mind that your stains aren't going to penetrate quite the same as what they normally would. Something I really enjoy doing is doing all of it, like for this one, I would do it in green, and then I would go over it then with an antique gel, or a pale green, and then block it with a dark green. I might do a separate video about that so that y'all can know what's going on. So yeah, again, gonna overlap this one by about 1 inch. Lay on my little thin sheets here, and you can put through sheets of paper or cardstock, or I mean anything. I have also used, this was one of the larger templates. Sometimes I'll use this design side up because you don't want to get like a ghost image imprinted or accidentally, you know, get multiple designs, or you can experiment with it and see what you like. So there's no wrong way to do this unless you're breaking your machine. Then you might want to change some things, or if it's not getting the result that you want. That's natural, that happens. Get the flask. There it goes. But yeah, check that out, y'all. Oh, that just makes me so happy. Because can you imagine the lifetime that that would take to hand draw and tool and texture and get to, and ain't nobody got time for that. I'd have to charge so much per corset. I mean, our corsets start at $200, but that's because it takes about $100 just in materials. after all the dye and all the rivets and grommets and clasps, the swing clasps on the front are like almost $5 each sometimes. So it's or actually it is, we pay like $15 per corset just in the swing clasps down the front. And this is before putting in any kind of work or anything. Accidentally got a little bit of a line through there, so I'm going to see if I can't retexture that. So I'm just lining up my pattern with what I had just done, and I'm going to make sure to stagger it a little bit more. So don't be afraid to re-emboss the piece that you just did, and practice a bunch actually with some of your scrap leather. Well, I mean, it muddied it up some, but it's a little better than just having a straight line across. But yeah, practice before doing a completed piece, and everything should work out fine. Also, an option if you want even less of a line is to stagger the hems on the back side. This guy shouldn't need the additional plates. And also, I think I am going to experiment with overfilling it so that you can hear, you know, what it sounds like when you're pushing it. Yeah, so you can see here how it just fades off into oblivion. Like the design really did just fade out. So I'm bringing the faded out design in about almost an inch from the edge here. And I'm overlayering like this. Now, I mean, you can't win them all, so there is going to be a line down here. That was my dog grunting. Weird dog. But we'll see if we can't work through that and see what happens. God bless Captain America. Okay. Ooh, it's so pretty. You guys see? So yeah, I'm just overlapping, I mean, pretty generously now. Putting down the thickening plates, and then just cranking it on through. Oh, that's lovely. And after it's stained and everything, this is just gonna look sharp. Okay, so this one, I am going to overfill it. So yeah, this one, I'm staggering down there at the end because since I'm overfilling, it's going to do a pretty serious bite. Okay. You hear how that popped? That's your gears popping. If that starts happening, don't push it any further. Just back it on out. And you can see it was, I mean, damage level burnishing. Like, you're not going to be able to get your dye to penetrate that very well at all. So what we do is just thin it down. Put our texture plate back down. And then just go over it again. So sometimes it'll just creak and scream like a banshee. Ooh, that's so pretty. And you could even do, I could just do it like this and do like an ombre fade of the design. That's actually not a bad idea at all. But I like the design all solid. So, pardon me while I just have a fit. But I do like the design solid all the way down. So, but yeah, I've made eye patches like this. I've done little belt panels. I've done bracelets. I've done, for my leather pendants, where it's like a gemstone layered between two layers of thin leather. On the back side, I've done the texturing. That way if it flips around, it's still pretty. Also, an interesting side note is these texture plates can be used with polymer clay, which is just fun. Now, I don't send it through the machine because I don't want polymer clay like squeezing out the sides and gunking up my machine, but I will spritz water on it and lay out the sheet of polymer clay and then use like a thin sheet or a piece of wax paper and then roll it out. But it's texture is texture. And again, with all of this stuff, since I'm like basically Frankensteining it, again, that one I forgot to put on the top panel because I was jabbering. So I'm just going to go over it again. I'm going to try my best to line up with the design I had already put in there, just because otherwise you'll get like little ghost designs, which isn't on the spirally one. That's not so much of a bad thing. But if you want like clean geometric lines, then that's something to keep in mind. What was I talking about? I don't remember. Ah! Leather though. Okay, that's basically it, you guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm sure you have some crafty friends who want to who would benefit from learning about this. Ooh, leather. Yeah, like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to see what y'all make with this and what ideas that you have for its applications. Like, you know, so feel free to comment down below. Let me know what you're up to. And I will see y'all around. Happy crafting!